I'll upload the video and you can watch later if you need.
Great.
Right.
You've got your waste tray behind your blade base, which can be removable. And you've got your object head. Okay? So, the way these specimen discs are, or chucks, depending on what you call them, this is how they look. And when you are ready to insert the specimen disc into the object head, you need to just make sure that the screw is out of the way. So there's a hole in the center where the specimen disc needs to go. And if it's blocked, for example, if it's screwed in tightly, you're not going to get anything in. So you need to just make sure that you unwind the screw at the top to create space for that specimen disc to come in.
Do you want some gloves or anything? Or?
That would be good if you, yeah, okay.
Yeah, gloves.
Gloves.
Gloves. It's on. Yeah.
Thank you very much. So yeah, essentially that's how you would insert your specimen discs, by ensuring that that area is nice and clear, by unscrewing, loosening if needed, and then once it's slotted in, you want to just tighten this screw, and you'll find that once it's tightened, it can't come out. It's securely in its place. Okay. So you also have an area here, so a lever. When you loosen that, you're able to control the orientation of your object head. Okay, it's quite easy to put back into its normal place because you can feel the ball point, the central area. You'll be able to feel that for yourself, moving up, center, central, down, central, left, central, right, for example. Okay, so it's pretty, once it's moved, it's pretty easy to go back into its original position. Once it's in the right position for you, you just tighten that lever. You'll find that you can't move it anymore. Okay, it's secure. That's one thing you want to be ensuring that before you start your sectioning, that your levers are tightly secured. You don't want to start sectioning and then next thing you know, it's moving. Okay.
So can you fine tune that movement there, or is it literally?
So this is all that's to the object head at the moment. So once it's actually set in its place and you tighten the lever,
yeah,
that's all you would need to do.
So those positions like back and forward in every angle,
Yeah.
literally back or forward, it's not you can do it halfway.
No. So it's literally just because you'll be able to feel once it's slotted. Yeah.
And you do that if you've orientated yourself with the OCT and it's okay.
Yeah. I mean, ideally you'd want to do it as flat as possible, but
Yeah.
if you feel like you need to move it in a certain way to be able to not cut through section, then yeah.
That makes sense.
Okay. Okay, so that's your object head. And then moving on to your blade holder in its base. So I'll go through the anti-roll plate last. So you've got your base, where your blade holder sits, okay? And for your base, you've got a lever on the left-hand side, which if you push that forwards, you're loosening the base. And this is how you would be able to control moving forwards or backwards, or even removing the base itself, whether it's for cleaning, for oiling, and so on. Okay, so this is the biggest lever there on the left-hand side. That is to control the movement of your base, where your blade holder sits. Okay, and to tighten that back up, you're pulling that towards you. Okay, so on your base is your blade holder. Okay, and to be able to move, you're going to need to move your blade holder from left to right to be able to get fresh bits of blade, for example. And ideally what people usually do is when they're sectioning their tissue, they want to start from one end of your blade, and then when that becomes dull, that area, you move it along until you've used every piece of the blade, and then you remove the blade. Does that make sense? Okay, so it's ideally to make the most of your blades, you want to start from one position, and that's usually from the left, and then you work your way to the right, then you get rid of your blades.
How many sections roughly for a blade is it though? Like I said, it
Depends on the sample.
Yeah.
It depends on the type of blade that you have, because if you have a bad batch, you're not really going to get through much. Depends on what you're cutting. If you're cutting really hard, brittle tissue, then you're going to expect to get through less. But yeah, it's quite hard to, I mean, I would say one blade will last you, it should be able to last you through your frozen process, to be honest.
What's the hardest it can get through? So I guess like
Bone.
tissue. Oh, bone. Okay. Right.
Yeah.
So pretty hard.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. And again, that depends on the blade that you're using and so on. Another thing that you can do is take this blade holder off. Okay, so it's just literally sliding it off and lifting. Okay, and when you're ready, slide that back on so you make sure that that's aligned. And then once that's on there, you tighten, and you tighten by pushing the lever forward. One thing with these levers, you will know once it's reached this point of, you know, the best point. I wouldn't say force it any further, because, or try not to be too heavy with it, because you don't want to push it past a certain point where it won't lock into place. Okay, so once you feel it sturdy in its place, then you just leave it at that. Okay.
Are these lubricated?
Yes.
And is that okay with the temperature? Like, I guess it's a special lubricant.
Yeah. So with this, we've got cryo oil.
Right. Okay.
It should be somewhere here, like
Cryo oil.
Yeah, there's a drawer.
yeah.
Right.
I'll
Drawer
show you
just
that.
along.
Yeah.
So for this blade holder itself, to actually put in a blade and eject the blade out, that's what you're going to use this lever for on the right hand side. Okay, so pushing the lever forwards will close the area where the blade will sit. Okay, so if you've noticed now, nothing will be able to slide through. The blade slides through from the right hand side. You would slide that in and it would sit on top of this red magnet. You see this red magnet here inside? So it will be slipped through and it will just sit on top of that. Okay? So between this plate, so you would just slide it. So you would open this up. You can see that this is opened now. And you just slip that in and it will just be inside this area, sitting on top of this red magnet here. Okay?
Is that one in them? Where's it gone?
So it's not in there now.
Okay.
Yeah. But if it was, you would position it in. Have you got one at the moment? Do you want me to show you how that would be done?
Yeah, that explains a lot. Never even noticed. There's in that bottom drawer. Yeah, we were doing the practice.
And
Which one?
I think you would have got a
Which one?
brush as well, actually. I can show you.
These ones.
Okay.
Of
Cool.
using the magic brush to remove.
Cool. Right. I'll get it.
So if you have that LEICA brush as well, I'll be able to show you.
Brush. This one?
No,
No?
no, Kelly's not here.
All right.
There.
No, I've got the OCT here, but that's it.
And cryo oil sheet as well.
That's not.
No,
That looks like a brush.
Doesn't say LEICA on it.
is it the same as the microtome?
The white brush.
Is it one with this microtome?
Oh yes, it'll be the same one.
No, the same one. If there's a white brush on here, if you look at
This
it.
one.
You can use that as an example, yeah.
Ah.
So this brush has a magnet on the end.
Ah.
Okay, I'll show you why that comes in handy. So
Magnetic brush.
when you are putting
It's not been open yet. So is there like a?
no, it
It's
should
a
be able
trick.
to.
There's a trick to it.
No, it should actually come out.
There's a new pack as well. Yeah, definitely there's some more in there.
There's what? Sorry.
Oh, it's the LEICA ones.
I can't.
Is that what we want?
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, I think it would be better to just show you, so you're actually seeing. It's different when you're talking about it, you know, as opposed to demonstrating.
If I put this video on my teaching YouTube playlist, is it alright with
That's
you?
absolutely
Alright,
fine.
okay.
That's
So that the
absolutely
rest of
fine.
them can go and rewatch again.
Okay, so
Right.
This thing.
it should slide out like this.
Ah.
Okay.
Right.
So ideally, so be very careful, obviously, because
Yeah.
you know at this
Yeah.
point it's inevitable. You're going to have to touch the blade. What you're going to do is you're going to take that blade out.
Yeah.
You're going to make sure that you're opening where the blade will sit. Okay, and you can see that it's open now. You're going to take. Best thing to do is to hold your blade by its end,
Yeah.
and you're going to want to
Slide in.
slide that in.
So there's a groove at the back.
So just slip that in between
Yeah.
there. Okay.
There's a red magnet there.
See
Got
that?
it. Okay.
And then once it's in, you're going to close that. Ensure that it's tight. But remember I said about not going too much
yeah,
forward, because
yeah.
it will. If you
But
do-
we can feel it.
yeah,
That
you'll be able
is-
to feel it when it's
yeah.
tightened.
Right.
Okay. So you know that that's in place now. It's not moving. Okay. When you want to be taking out the blade, what you want to do is you want to loosen the lever again, so you can see that it can be opened. You've got an ejector on the left hand side.
Ah,
Okay.
alright, okay.
So you're going to want to press that.
And it's
You can see that it's coming out, right? Here's where your brush will come in handy with the magnet.
So that you don't have to use your finger.
Yes, and then you will get rid of it in here.
Brilliant.
Okay. So that's how this brush will come in handy.
That's what you call
Okay.
agronomic.
I'll put this here temporarily. And then one thing, you know, if you've gone away temporarily, you're not finished your frozen, just make best use of your blade guard.
Ah,
Okay.
Shut
Because if
it.
Yeah, just shut it. Just put it over. Because if you go away and somebody else comes, it indicates to be like, okay, there's something there.
yeah.
And it's a reminder to you as well, there's something there.
Alright, okay.
Even if you have to do some sort of adjustment with your object head, whether it's changing your chuck or object that you're cutting in between frozens, you want to obviously ensure that your lock is in place, your lock is on,
So the lock is at
which is here, so it's in place, it's not going to move. And then you want to make sure that your blade guard is up, and then if you do need to change your disc or anything that you're cutting, there's nothing gonna happen to you.
Yep.
Okay. So that's why the guard is useful. So that brings us then to the anti-roll plate. Okay. This is your anti-roll plate. The anti-roll plate is used as an aid to help you get smooth sections, okay, in place, ready for you to pick up. Okay. And during your frozens, people can either use the anti-roll plate as an aid, or people like to use thin brushes to pull their sections down so that they can place or apply it onto their glass slide. Okay, but the anti-roll plate is an option. Some people like to use it, some people don't. And the way you would manipulate this, so you would use the handle, whether you want to take it out of place, you don't want to use it, you lift it up via this little knob here, or to put it in place, you push that down. Before you start using your anti-roll plate, it needs to be set into position. Set into position meaning you need to be able to ensure that when you are producing these sections or cutting your sections, the section is gliding smoothly beneath this area, so in between your blade and your glass plate. Okay, so that when you do lift this, it's flattened, ready for you to pick up.
Samples coming.
So the sample essentially will be coming
Two layers.
between your blade and your anti-roll plate. Okay. Now, to be able to manipulate this or ensure that it's, you know, the gap is big enough for a section to come through, but not too big, not too wide, you do this by manipulating this area here. I'm not quite sure if anybody's played around with this yet or set it to their optimal. Should it?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, and I've just touched that slightly.
It's all right.
But the idea of this, without changing it too much, is the more you turn the knob towards the right hand side, you're going to tighten and close the gap between your anti-roll plate and where your blade is sitting. Okay, so picture it this way: if it's closed and there's no gap between your anti-roll plate and the blade, when you try and get a section, the tissue's just going to gather. It's not going to actually glide through because there's no gap in between. So ideally, you want to turn the knob the other direction to create space for the section to glide through, okay? And essentially when you're loosening, widening that gap, what it's doing, the anti-roll plate is, you're pushing the anti-roll plate forward to create some sort of opening for the section to come through. Now, there is risk in this if it's too far towards the other side. You know, the anti-roll plate's coming forward, and it will get to a point where eventually if you try to turn the handle and get a section, you're going to hear scraping, and that's because the glass is too far forward and it's scraping against your object. That's how you know, okay, no, we need to turn it back towards the right and bring the anti-roll plate backwards a bit to close the gap. Okay, so it's just about getting that optimal position so that your section can glide through nicely.
It's like a tiny hand plane or something.
Exactly, yeah. So, and you'll be able to see straight away when it's at its right point. You're not going to hear squeaking or scraping, you know, because it's too far forward, and it's not going to gather before it even gets put through.
That's not going to damage the blade, is it? Because it's the glass that's hitting your sample top.
No, so your blade will
sample,
not be damaged. Your glass will be damaged, potentially, and that's one thing that you don't want anyway. So with the anti-roll plate itself, the blade is out already, so I can do this. So to loosen and take out the glass out of the anti-roll plate, you're gonna turn these knobs anti-clockwise and slide outwards, okay? This is how the anti-roll plate, the glass looks. And let me word this properly. So you can use this glass plate up to 4 ways, okay? Because eventually, every time the glass is going to wear, you're going to have the chips and stuff like that. Depending on how well you look after it, will depend on how long you have it for. But let's say, for example, it's been in this position. This area will eventually get dull, okay? And you need to change that. So what you can do is turn it around, use this area. Once both areas have become dull, you're going to flip it over, then use the other area. Once that's done, turn that around and use that side.
We need to put a little marking then.
Okay, but you'll be able to see it regardless.
Oh, the dullness
Literally,
of it.
it's very,
Right,
yeah.
okay.
Is that sapphire or something, or is it quartz, or is it just glass? Like
It's just
a glass plate.
yeah. But we provide this anyway. So there are part numbers in the handbook. So if you do need replacements, we'll be able to give you the replacements as well. There is a different size of this glass plate, and it's the reason why we have different sizes is depending on your section thickness. So there's a smaller size, and that's if you're doing really, really thin sections. But this is the popular size that the majority of people use. Okay, and when you're ready to put that back into its place, it's literally sliding this back down, and you want to turn to the right to tighten on either side, and then it's set. It's back into place. Just be mindful that once it is set in place, depending on how you hold this, it will be easy to move the knob around. Okay, you don't want to unintentionally adjust. If you've got it in the right position, you don't want to play about with that, because obviously it's just a pain of having to put it back, right? So just be careful when you are lifting your anti-roll plate up and down. This is all you need to be moving, not grabbing the whole lot, just the very top of it out of its place. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay. The reason why this red magnet is in its place is to hold, because you're using low profile blades. The low profile blade is quite thin in size. If you're using high profile blades, or ever wanted to change to high profile blades, maybe you found them more durable, or because you're doing plants, you may find that high profile blades will be better. It really depends, okay? Which they're twice the size, okay? So a high profile blade will not fit in place on top of where this magnet is. You would need to remove this, okay? To be able to, you could try and just, this is loosened, take it out this way. That may be easier. Otherwise, if you do need to ever get into where the blade area is, so in between this section here, you can remove this whole plate. And what you can do is loosen the handle, pull outwards, remove this top area. And this is essentially the same with your microtomes as well, by the way. And then you can lift upwards. Okay, I'll move the anti-rocket out of the way. So lift it upwards. You have better access to the magnet, or if there was ever any debris that got inside there and you wanted to clean it, you can do. When you're ready, put that back in its place. Okay. And then slide that on. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So, the last thing on this blade holder that I wanted to show you is your clearance angle, which is on the left-hand side. Okay. So, you'll see the markings. It's from 0, then it has a middle marking, and then there's 10. Okay. So this sets the angle in which the blade will meet your tissue. Has anyone been sectioning on this since you've got it?
No, not really, no.
No, I was going to ask you, how's this angle been for you? Because, I mean, engineers will usually set the clearance angle on here at 0. As you can see, it's probably there now, right?
It's probably closer to 5.
So that's at 2.5 now. Okay, so that's fine. What I would say is it really depends on the blade holder that you've got. So this one specifically, ideally the optimal range is between 2.5 and 5 degrees. Okay, you want to keep it within that range for your clearance angle, and that's at a good angle right now anyway. If we found
What angle is that?
that's more, and it's literally just between 0 and 5.
Okay.
So I'd say that's around like 2.5, that area there.
Midway.
So anything from there and 5, some people have it at 5. Good, that's what you want. Okay, and once it's set with these newer models, it's quite nice because it will not change that easy. You would have to use the hexagon Allen key to just insert that into the hole and twist, and then it will loosen. The older models had the lever. Now that was a pain because when you're sectioning or when you're doing things in here, it can knock the lever out of place and then it would move. So now that that's set, you won't really need to trouble that, and you won't have to worry about it moving out of place. Okay, but essentially if you did want to go in there and change that, you just need that Allen key, slot that in the hole there, just turn and it loosens, turn back and it tightens. Okay, any questions? No, about operation, the controls? No?
So good.
Yeah? Oh yeah, just before I talk about maintenance, this is just your storage for your brushes, for example. We've got to place that on there and store that there. In terms of cleaning, I would recommend using a high percentage alcohol, so anything from 70% onwards. No other harsh chemicals, whether it's acetone or anything like that.
No soap.
Needed. Soap, I mean, alcohol would do you best in terms of cleaning and disinfecting your, after using your tissue in the cryostat. One thing I do recommend, obviously because alcohol is flammable, ideally for extra safety precaution, whenever you are cleaning, so after you've dusted away your bits and pieces, thrown that away, your excess waste, and before you start to use the alcohol to wipe down your surfaces in here, I would recommend switching off the machine temporarily, doing what you're doing, giving it a wipe down, and then once everything's dried off, switch it back on,
Got it.
and then you can proceed.
For safety, right?
Okay, but that's just for safety, simply because alcohol is flammable, and
Sure.
we don't want any flammable things being used in here while the machine is still on.
Okay.
Risk of explosions and stuff like that. Okay?
Don't risk it.
Yeah, don't risk it. Even though I've seen people still do it. However, for safety precaution, it's always good to be safe, right?
Sure.
Yeah. Another thing that I need to highlight to you as well, if you are going to use frostbite, for example, you know, freeze sprays, we do not recommend spraying them directly into the cryostat. Okay. Again.
So
this
that's what that
catalyst
symbol
risk,
is, the
and that's why that's
defrost.
there. Because I know that a lot of people, some people do use it, some people don't, but they like to spray to keep their specimens cool. Maybe because their door's been open for quite a long period of time and you've got the warm air going in, or you know, they just want it simply just a little bit colder, sectioning.
Okay.
Not saying you can't use it, but if you are going to use it, take your disc out of the cryostat, give it a spray, put it back in, and proceed that way.
Got it.
Not spraying directly into the cryostat. Okay?
Okay.
Just some advice there. Any questions?
So a question about something else, but we have been recommended to use gelatin, 10% gelatin for sectioning. Is there any tips you can give us for using gelatin, or it would just be the same once it's frozen? It shouldn't make any difference.
I
Can
mean,
you hold this for 1 minute?
it really
I need to go
depends
next door
because
to Julie.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, with gelatin, you would want a very, very cool temperature for using that. I don't think you would want me to go all the way down to minus 35. Let's just say that. But I would say start off with minus 25 and work from there. See how that goes. But essentially, it would be the same process as anything else, really. Yeah. Okay.
So what temperature would you work at if you were working with OCT? Then you would work
roughly around the same, I would say. However, again, it's there's many more factors including this. For example, the tissue.
Yeah.
You know, because some people with OCT, you can even use the cryostat at temperatures like minus 20, minus 19, for example, and so on. However, that may not work for people because of their tissue itself. You know, they may have very fatty tissue, or they need to make it colder because of that. So, but in terms of operation with OCT, it's fine at those temperatures.
So if you didn't get a very good section, what would be the first kind of troubleshooting thing you would look at? Would it be the temperature, or you'd think it's more to do with the cutting angle, or?
So with that, it depends on what you're seeing. Okay, so for example, if you're seeing you're getting thin sections, then things to check would be your temperatures, because it may not be cool enough. But also, other things to check would be, are your levers tight enough? Is everything in place? Is it tightly shut? But also your object head as well. Is that secure? So yes, temperature, but it's also positioning of levers, making sure everything is secure. Another thing would be your blade. Is it dull? Do you need to change your blade, for example? Same thing with tearing. If you're getting tearing in your sections, you know straight away that, okay, it could be the blade, or it could be that you've got a really harsh bit of tissue there. Or it may be a thing where, depending on the issue, you may need to re-embed the sample. Okay, so it really depends on what you're seeing in your section. If you're seeing holes in your section, maybe if there's an air bubble, maybe it just needs to be re-embedded, or anything like that. Okay. But speaking of that, actually, have you got the manual?
In that drawer.
Because it does have some more tips in there, which is very, very beneficial. A bit slightly which touches on what you were speaking about. If I can find the page, because usually I say these things and okay. So possible errors, possible things that you could get. So splinters, cracks, curls on your sections. When using the anti-roll plate, it will tell you the cause of it. Maybe it's dirty, maybe your knife is dirty, maybe that needs cleaning. Maybe the edge of the anti-roll plate is damaged. So for example, maybe you need to get a fresh bit now and use the other side. So it has all the causes and the remedies of what, depending on what the issue is that you're seeing, most likely that would come up on your sections. Chatter, for example, what I was speaking about earlier. Condensation of anti-roll plate. You know, it always has the remedies here. There's quite a bit in here.
Okay.
So
So that's under troubleshooting.
it's the troubleshooting guide, yeah. And this is for troubleshooting during your sectioning. Okay. There are also troubleshooting guides for the more mechanical aspect of it, of the cryostat. So for example, if you see errors occur on your display, like an error code, you're not expected. There's no way you're expected to know exactly what that is. So on this page in the troubleshooting section, it's got the numbers that can occur. For example, it will tell you the cause and also the remedy. Most likely, for the majority of these error codes, it will be call service. Okay? So you won't be expected to do much or a lot of troubleshooting, if that makes sense. Okay? But in regards to your sectioning, I'd say that this is very, very beneficial to refer to. Just remember that you have it here, so it's really good. And of course, if there's anything else, maybe you can't find the answer here, we're also available. You know, so if you need to contact us, by all means, we'll be able to guide you with that. Okay? And then in terms of, there's a page on accessories. So if you wanted more discs, more specimen discs, different sizes, for example, we have that available in here as well, and the part numbers for ordering, replacement plates, and so on. Okay, OCT or anything like that. So that's all in here as well. Okay. And also anything that I've mentioned today in terms of timing, if you ever forget that, or for example, the highest section thickness that you can go up to in this, you know, it's all in here as well. Okay. In terms of, and this is, I'm just going back to maintenance again, with the cryo oil, okay, you will find that,
Where is it? The cryo oil?
put this here.
It will be in the drawer.
Is it?
You may find that it will be beneficial from time to time. If you find that you're moving your blade holder along and it's quite stiff, or it needs some sort of lubrication, you can put a few drops in these areas.
Can you show how to put it?
Absolutely, yeah. It's just yeah.
Is
have
it
you?
is it in a drawer?
Yes.
There's OCD. Right.
I guess it doesn't need it on.
It doesn't- definitely doesn't need it.
Okay.
If it's brand new, but you just nozzle it
Yeah.
in a bit.
Yeah, just show the nozzle. Where does it go?
So
Yeah.
it's literally just. I think it needs to be. Oh, the cap is on. Right. So basically, it would be in these areas here.
Would you use it
Okay.
quite sparingly?
Yeah. So it a little goes a long way. You don't want, with this machine, you don't want to be lubricating it so much that the oil's dripping everywhere.
No,
You don't
no,
want that at all. Okay. And if you find that there's an excessive amount, before you put it back in, just give it a wipe. It only needs a little bit. Okay.
Okay.
And it's as and when. Okay, so it's not a thing you need to do weekly, or you know, it's as
As
and
needed.
when. Yeah,
Right.
when it's needed. Same thing.
Does it gunk up off, or need the oil itself need cleaning off and replacing? It should be.
No, it will be
There's
okay.
not much going in there.
Yeah,
is there?
exactly. There's not
So-
much. You're not pasting it,
Yeah.
and no, that's fine. Same thing with your base as well. If there was ever a time you needed that on there, but also we take out this storage shelf.
Alright.
Just in the coupling area.
What's that?
It's just your mechanism. You know, you've got the
Oh,
mechanism for
okay.
the unit itself.
Right.
Okay.
So this is the cover.
Yeah, that's the cover.
Okay.
And then lastly, if you ever did need to lubricate the mechanism within the object head, it's literally just extending or advancing, shall I say, your object head outwards as far as possible, and just putting a couple of drops there. Okay,
Alright.
and then bringing it back. It's just oiling the mechanism. Okay.
So do you recommend having them serviced every?
So this it should be
I think it's on a
serviced.
service
Yeah.
contract.
Yeah. So if that is, then they'll do it. They'll
Just
come back every
once a
year
year.
on a yearly basis and service your instrument. Okay, so that will be done this year, once a year. Okay. And then lastly, you have air vents on the sides, which
What's that?
this area here, just on the side,
All right. Okay.
can gather dust from time to time. So if you've got like a little vacuum, you can just vacuum the area or brush off that area. Okay.
Like a laundry dryer. You need that. Okay.
Okay. And yeah, that is your essentially your.
When did you get this? Is it recent?
Probably end of November, December, early December.
All right. Okay.
Are you okay to turn around? So I'm tempted to try and
Absolutely.
get a slice and you
Of
can
course,
see what
yeah,
I'm doing
yeah.
wrong.
Absolutely, yeah, we can do that.
Can I stand here so that Rachel can? Oh. No.
This mess. Need to put a blade in. Blade's in now. Sorry.
No, I took that out. Yeah, yeah.
So that
Oh yeah. Also,
everyone
one
can
more
see.
thing. If you ever see
Are you on the
lights
mailing
alternating,
For
back and
this,
forth
yeah.
between
Yeah,
the
yeah.
two
So that once I
settings,
upload
that
it,
just means
Yeah,
that the
you
volume is
yeah, yeah,
changing.
you can, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So which is it's just a matter of, but again, later when that if that does happen, we can come and show you when you're ready to change that. It's just a matter of pulling the bulb out of its storage position like this, and then removing it from the metal plate and giving it a but if that does happen, we can assist with
Right,
that.
yeah.
If you're not comfortable, we'll be able to get someone in to do that for you.
Yeah.
Okay. So in terms of putting in the blade,
Yeah.
sorry, I've got the window open for quite some time.
Oh, sorry.
Come on, someone talk me through this. What am I moving?
So you're
Am I
gonna,
just slotting it in?
yeah, so you're going to loosen this, open this area.
Yeah.
Just
So what
to,
is that doing then? That is
That
moving
is
this, and I
opening
can't
the-
quite see it.
Yeah.
yeah. And then you're gonna, it's gonna be on top of the magnet, the red magnet.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's gonna sit on top like that.
Oh,
So you
so
push
we're
that in.
seeing the blade.
Yeah. And then you're gonna tighten the,
It's pushing that in.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Rach,
almost
is it
tight.
cold when you
And then,
touch?
Yeah.
ideally,
Yeah,
bit
it's mine
slippy.
stay.
what you want to do is loosen this lever.
Yeah.
You just wanna start off with one bit of blade.
I suppose I'll leave it up for now.
You can leave that for now because we need to see as well if it's aligned properly
Yeah,
and
true.
make changes if it's not.
So
I like them.
yeah, that might help. So would it help if I moved this down so it's close to the blade, so I can see how close it is?
Absolutely, yeah. You can line it up to see how far you need to go forwards, or
So I'm miles away. So if I leave it roughly there and move this closer. This one?
so what you could do is put the guard up
Do you
while
go
you're doing
to
this, and
Julie's
then
meeting?
you want to hold it by the base.
Do you go to Julie? Rach
Yeah.
meeting?
So it's, you're pushing
Right,
it forwards. the
Yeah.
lever.
Yeah.
Is it time?
Loose.
Yeah.
It's getting used to it. Ooh, yeah, I see what you mean.
You see what I mean?
Say again.
I actually wonder about not having it quite cold as that
Yeah,
battery.
Yeah, let's I'll put that.
It's 25 or something.
I also don't know how.
Yeah. And
It's
then
roughly touching, and then
Yeah. But it's a slide.
so yeah, that's definitely so you want to ideally push. Yeah.
Ooh.
so then you'd use these, maybe, or do you think it's so close that it'll be there soon?
You can do this step by step. So use
More than it will. There'll be a signal.
also as well.
So
Yeah.
maybe
we
make that
increase
10.
them.
10, yeah.
Great noise, basically. Problem is with processing it, you could then Yes, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, I see what you mean. So this is the tissue.
Yeah,
side.
okay.
Hmm.
Okay. So now you're on sample.
Yeah.
So would you put this down so that it actually comes
Yeah.
onto the plate?
Yeah, so you want to, now that you know it's been aligned, you want to put this down.
Yeah.
But you also just want to
Oh, so
test.
I'll
Okay,
provide the
to
link.
see
Anyway. So,
where it's at the moment.
I see.
So,
So now the glass is pushing it up.
yes, it's pushing. That means it's too close. It's too closed. So
Okay.
you want to, instead of turning it towards the right, you want to turn it to the left slightly.
And it's that one.
Gradually.
Yeah, that might be.
And then let's see.
Ah.
ooh, do again, do again,
Better.
Okay.
do again, do again.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
The other thing is, it's actually freeze.
Interesting.
Is it freeze dry? Is it freeze
Oh,
We would.
Yeah.
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 That is nice.
On top of that,
No,
Yes, it
you
is.
see. Yeah.
slide. Do you see any slide?
Yeah. I suppose so. I'm
Like our samples not
So we
coming out.
could move it directly into IMS.
It looks as though the sample is slightly,
Yeah, I think there's going to be some.
and that's probably because I've had the window
Yeah.
open for quite some time as well, but
Yeah, yeah.
could be a bit, it's gathering a bit on your tissue,
Yeah.
which means it could be a bit cooler. Not the
You're right. Like if it's
chamber itself, obviously it was at minus 35, but if the sample itself, the tissue was colder,
for freeze,
it would come out a bit more smoother.
Yeah, I'm not sure actually how it.
I'm not sure how it usually comes out for you.
This one's right.
I ain't got anything like
Yeah, you would be expecting that.
I guess until we've got it in the microscope, we wouldn't
Yeah.
necessarily know. But this is
No.
this is this is tricky tissue.
Yeah.
We've not necessarily done this with before, so we're expecting to pick out it's
So you can get.
a rice leaf cut in half. So you're expecting it to have like lots of veins and like holes and gaps.
I will get out there so you can
Sorry,
actually
yeah.
see this. I know that you would like to see.
I was just saying.
But essentially, the rate that well, the way the position that anti-rock plate's at now, that's perfect.
yeah.
Okay, that's where you would, and you would know that. Okay, at the beginning when we had to adjust that, the hole